Hi, I'm Rickey Chavez. I'm hosting Battle Ready in an effort to help people reinvent themselves at any given time. In today's world, everybody is facing a bunch of opportunities, and what we're going to do is we'll address some of those opportunities throughout the time of the show. Today, we're going to have on Dan Moran, who is the owner of GOAT Athletics. I've known Dan quite a while, and Dan is an amazing guy. He's taken the company all the way up. He had a setback, and now he's back on top. So I'd love to get Dan on the screen. Hey Dan, how are you?
Good, Ricky. How are you?
Amazing. I appreciate you asking. So Dan, one of the things we want to talk about right now is just, throughout your career, you've had opportunities where you had a couple setbacks, and I know setbacks for everybody are somewhat of a challenge, but you're a doer. So tell me about the setback and how you addressed it and how you handled it.
Well, recently, and I'll say within the last few years, I worked my way up through the ranks through a company that I sold my original company to, but then became president of that company, if that doesn't sound kind of confusing. But with that, I was president of the company and made a lot of moves and made moves that were good for the company and really tried to create a culture change within the company. Well, just really, as time went on, didn't see eye to eye with the board of directors, even though sales had grown over 50% during COVID in 2 years. So basically, we parted ways. I had a 15-month non-compete, and in that time frame, it allowed me to reflect, go through 7 stages of emotion. I don't like losing. But in that time frame, I remodeled a house, which made a good profit on, which was great, and then decided to regroup and open up another company, GOAT Athletics. Since it's in my wheelhouse, it's what I know, it's what I live and breathe, and right now we're off and running and very successful to this point.
And that's amazing. You mentioned the 7 levels. Tell me which one that was the hardest for you to, recover with.
I think first, like going through just the anger part of it was a hard pill to swallow. In my life, I grew up, I would say a poor child on the wrong side of the tracks. I had 6 siblings, and to make it in life, you had to make it on your own. And by doing that, I worked hard, knocked on doors as a kid, trying to find odd jobs. And from that point in time, achieved a football scholarship. And that's the only way I was going to go to college. So that was basically my job. But going through that, the first one was anger. Then there was a lot of denial, and it took a while. It took a while. It was a hard pill to swallow. I've only known success, and in that company I was successful, but I learned that to control my destiny, I had to be on my own, working for myself, and be my boss, because I know how to run things, run them well, and that's what I decided to do.
Definitely run them your way, right?
Right.
I know it's always interesting adjusting to other people's leadership and just how they do business. I do know, I remember when you sold your company way back when, and then you became part of the staff. And, how was that? I mean, how was that integration? How did you go from being the owner of the company to now, I think you went to be a general manager maybe?
Right. Yeah, I ran my company in Texas for 10 years, and this company that I sold to, came down probably for about 4 different years, and the president of the company kept sliding a napkin across the table, and then I would cross out what he was putting down, and I'd slide my napkin back. Well, after 4 years, we kind of came to terms. I knew at that point in time, the recession of '08 created a real void for bond money and things like that. And the real cliff was probably in 2012. Well, I showed good profits up until then. So So selling in 2012 made a whole lot of sense financially. But when we joined the other company, the company that I had sold was real simple. It was a straight line approach to business. If it made sense, do it. If it didn't make sense, don't do it. And question the status quo, at every point in time. But what happened is we went into this big corporation with a lot of different levels of reporting, rules, programming, just a lot more paperwork. And I knew probably right away within the first few months that maybe this was a big mistake. Well, me not resting on my laurels or sitting still, I ran Texas, doubled sales in Texas, and then decided to branch off and had some good people on the East Coast that I knew that we could open up the East Coast with. So we opened up 7 states on the East Coast and did it, and we're extremely successful there. So part of me, if I get bored, I just move on and do other things. Well, at that point in time, go ahead.
I'm sorry, please finish.
No, go ahead.
So I remember in one of our conversations, you mentioned, when you were trying to figure out, and this is kind of a crossroads again, because if I recall, you mentioned to me early on, you were working for another company and you wanted to do things somewhat differently and it would be more profitable. So you went and found a way to become an entrepreneur, right? So
right.
During that process, you were reinventing yourself because you were selling one thing and now you wanted to be, based on being an athlete, you wanted to go into the gym and the athletics part. So you worked in that. So I think the thing was that I remember is you were knocking on doors, getting no's. And how did you handle that? And how did you reinvent your process and how you presented yourself?
It's interesting. My high school football coach, offensive line coach, great guy. He used to say, patience and persistence with a powerful punch will pay off. And so when I originally got into this business, I knew nothing about the business. I knew construction, but I didn't know anything about plans or specifications or how school bids worked and things like that. So I was hired by a company at that point in time to build lines for them. And basically I just looked through the spec book and I found athletic equipment. I found lockers, I found gym flooring, I found gym bleachers and things that made sense to me. And then basically I just started picking off the manufacturers one at a time. I got doors closed in my face a number of times. And I remember with one company, it was a top athletic company in the country. And the regional manager told me no a number of times, flew out to Hollywood, California, where he was at, went golfing with him, came back and said, hey, I really like you, but I still said no. I said, if it's all the same to you, I'm gonna go over your head and talk to the president of the company. He's like, be my guest. So I flew up to Chicago, talked to the president. He first asked me, what are your intentions? I said, well, I'm not leaving this office till I get the line. And put a 28-page business plan, slid it across his desk, sat there, talked through it where it made sense, got the line. And in the first year, we doubled sales, for that manufacturer in the state of Arizona at that point. So basically, I think it comes down to, Rickey, when you're posed with a problem, it's not a problem, it's an opportunity. And what's the opportunity? It's the opportunity to get better. And the only person that you can praise or blame is yourself, because you alone will either make it happen or you won't. And basically, it's not being a rocket scientist, but it's hard work, it's patience and persistence, and it will pay off.
So, and some of the things I heard you say, and one of the things I remember in our other conversations is, so you were building a business, right, and learning about the entrepreneur side, but not only were you learning about the entrepreneur side, and the reinvention part is you had to learn about the product. I mean, the gym equipment. I mean, you've been in gyms, you were a player, but there was things you had to learn in order to present it, and nobody just told you about it. You had to do your due diligence, correct?
Oh yeah. And mainly what I found out in basically sales, and that's what we do. My company, we represent manufacturers. So I would say back in the 30s, we would be either Fuller Brush salesmen or we would be encyclopedia salesmen, carrying those lines. And basically, when it comes down to the market, I think knowing your product is important, but knowing your competition's product is probably more important, because you know where the strong points are, and you know where the weak points are, and you know how to attack them. The good thing is, in my whole career, I've always teamed up with the best and probably the most expensive manufacturers. So truly, our organization has to sell the product versus being low bid, on Tuesday.
Well, I think the other thing about that is that you said is partner up with. You got to surround yourself with good people, right? People you work with,
Absolutely.
people you partner with, people that you network with, and you have to have a can-do attitude, right? I know a lot of people in these days are saying, well, people give up all the time. I read an article. It's called "A Message to Garcia." It's a pretty awesome. I think I sent it to you way back when, but basically it showed where you can get a mission and you do it without asking 1,000 questions, and you stumble through it. But stumbles don't make you better. It's not a problem. Again, it's an opportunity. So we're
Right.
getting
And
ready to.
I think you're right, Ricky. And I live by the motto of surround yourself with good people. I want to surround myself with people who, number one, I aspire to be like. Number two, people that are positive, and people who are like me. And one thing I'll do in my life and in any organization that I run is negative people are cancers within the organization or within your life, and you need to cut them out surgically. Like a surgeon, you need to cut them out of your life. Surround
Okay.
yourself with positive people aspiring to be greater.
So we're running out of time a little bit. Dan, hold tight a little bit. We'll get back together and on our next segments. I really definitely appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. I know we're going to keep going through this process because I definitely know your drive. And I know a lot more that I think that people should hear about, because you weren't born with a spoon in your mouth, and you've done a lot of things that got you to where you're at so far.
Thanks.